What is going on? Welcome back to Financial Journey. So today I want to talk to you about SNDL Inc. and also ProText Mobility. I am going to be comparing the two and talking on what is a better cannabis play. Several different things I'm going to be using to judge them, one of which is overall health, momentum, the discount in relation to the market, and at the end I'm going to be talking on both different stocks, one things I really do like about them. But before I get into any of that, making sure you guys hit that thumbs up and subscribe, I greatly appreciate that. With that though, let's get right to it. So in case you guys do not know anything about either of the stocks, I'm going to give you a basic summary. So under this channel, I have covered SNDL Inc., formerly known as Sundial Growers, ticker is SNDL. Market cap is 536 million. It does trade on the NASDAQ. And when it comes to ProText Mobility recently went through a reverse merger with RSA. RSA's logo is at the very top of here. Market cap 49.34 million, so it is relatively small in comparison, and it does trade under the OTC. So just keep in mind of all of that. And when it comes to it, I'm not a financial advisor either, so do your own due diligence ultimately at the end of the day. And if there's any comments, questions that you have, let me know in the comments below if there's anything you disagree with or any additional content that you would like to provide. But getting right to it, I want to start by talking about momentum. So Sundial or SNDL Inc., I'm going to make that mistake quite a lot, so just keep that in mind. I've done quite a lot of videos and I am very used to calling it Sundial. So SNDL Inc. just doesn't rub the right way right now. I'm going to get used to it in time, but still right now I'm going to make that mistake quite a lot. So when it comes to SNDL Inc., they got very famous in 2021 by Wall Street bets. They jumped all over them for being a potential short squeeze. Shorts really took Sundial to the cleaners, if you want to call it that. And looking at the chart as well, you can even see it has gone down and did go down quite a lot because of short interest. Then it had a little bit more of a potential squeeze. So if we were to have done this video in January 2021, then yes, momentum would go to SNDL Inc. But as of late, you can see the sentiment has gone down quite a lot. And unfortunately, it had little blips based on earnings or other catalysts out there, but it's unable to hold any gains, unfortunately. And even looking here, it's only been mentioned once over the last 24 hours. So I think overall, a lot of people aren't necessarily really getting into it. I think there still is a huge fan base behind it, but by no means what it was. And when it comes to ProText, so ProText is recently went through a reverse merger, and when there is any news, positive news in fact, on over-the-counter stocks, they typically blow up 9 times out of 10 at least. And I think you have to distinguish what is the difference between a pump and dump and what is real or not. But based on everything I've really looked at, ProText has a lot of validity to that. But when it comes to momentum, like I said, it is in the kind of brink of breakout potentially. There's a lot of good things and catalysts behind that, but as with any other over-the-counter stock, there is a sufficient amount of risk involved. So make sure you guys do your own due diligence. But as of right now, especially on how much is actually being discussed, ProText, despite even just outside of over-the-counter stocks, is one of the most heavily searched stocks. So based on momentum, I personally would give that to ProText. So moving on though, as far as overall health, I'm just going to quickly go to Sundial and go to their financials. So when it comes to their financials, I want to look at their basic balance sheet. So total cash equivalents and short-term investments, 497 million, total long-term investments, 574 million, total debt, 266 million. In addition to that, on a quarter-by-quarter basis, they currently do lose 147.09 million. So take that how you see that. Outside of that, I'm going to be talking on several different things that basically benefits SNDL Inc. Because the overall health of a stock, that is very vague. There's a lot of different things that could be discussed. So if there is something I do miss, also let me know in the comments below. But when it comes to SNDL Inc., they do have several different components outside of the cannabis field, if you want to call it that. One of which is Sunstream, more of a lending company of sorts. They are set to do their IPO later this year or sometime in 2022, so that's going to be a very big deal, and it is very profitable. It has a lot of banking components to that. And outside of that, their recent acquisition of 𝗪𝗓𝗓, which is a liquor store, and in reality well below its intrinsic value. So given the circumstances of all of that, I personally feel that there is a lot of strong health for Sundial. Despite the pullback in the overall cannabis sector, basically for the last year and a half. Doesn't matter any stock, even Sundial or Tilray or whatever floats your boat, every stock is mostly down 80%, if not more, over the last year. So it's one of those things that I think it's just the cannabis component has gone down, and to have as far as outside sources of revenue that SNDL Inc. does have is very beneficial. And then now when it comes down to overall ProText, over-the-counter stocks, in case you guys have not invested in OTC stocks before, a little bit more complicated for financials. So you can see ProText does have all their SEC submissions right here. Unfortunately, the latest quarterly results wasn't until 2015. So that data is well past overdue, not really relevant per se. And I did open it, nothing really good on there. And I think this is why OTC stocks are seeing a little bit more risky per se, because you basically go in very, very trusting. So RSA, on the other hand, was founded in 2017, but they weren't a publicly traded company, so there is no known financials for them as well. So again, a little bit in the dark there. There was 2 recent conferences that ProText did submit and kind of participate in, so we have to go based on that information, and once again have to go based on the trust factor. Hopefully they're telling the truth and not like any other over-the-counter stock. But looking here, similar to what Sundial, they do have very little debt. So in obviously ProText's case, they have no debt. They reiterated saying that they are not going to be doing any reverse mergers or reverse splits or anything like that. Farm expansions. So despite SNDL Inc. and previous earnings have kind of given a sense that they're slowing down in anticipation of a possible recession or possible inflation as well, but that isn't the case for ProText. They're actually wanting to expand very, very fast. And given the circumstances, like I said, with SNDL Inc., they are burning quite a lot of money from operations. That isn't necessarily, again, the case for ProText. They are also doing a little bit more of a different attribute where they are incorporating a token, so cryptocurrency. In the future, if they ever do need additional funding, they are going to withdraw it from the actual token, so there won't be any actual dilution to their stock. So that's a little bit more of a different attribute. So I really do actually like that. Whereas technically with SNDL Inc., even if you look right here, 497 million is cash equivalent and short-term investments, currently burning that, so they are good for basically about a year, possibly, without them having to dilute or do some attribute of sorts. So that's as well something you just need to factor in. Given the circumstances and assuming all of this is actually correct as far as their expansion and overall what they have for assets and their cost basis, that's also one thing that I really do value about ProText. Again, based on the information that they have provided, their cost basis for operations and the seeds is far less than Sundial. So that's something you really need to factor in. So given the circumstances and assuming all of this is correct and assuming everything that they've talked about on their actual conferences is correct, then health would easily go to ProText. So again, let me know your thoughts on that in the comments below. That might be a little bit more of a vague, and a lot of people probably don't necessarily like that, but keep in mind, it could go either way, right? There's a lot of different things. Obviously, ProText does have all their eggs in one basket with basically the cannabis component. They do have a secondary component more for psychedelics, but that is still another illegal substance and still has a lot of regulations and hoops to jump over potentially. So I'm not really going to be including that, but again, that could be very profitable in the future. But still, moving forward, now I want to talk on the discount. So when it comes down to the discount, there are several different things. I'm going to start off with ProText for this one. Currently a 49.34 million market cap, and based on, like I said, no financials, it's really hard to put an actual price on that. There was this that was actually said in March 2nd, 2021, where ultimately RSA and ProText have been going back and forth for the longest time. But RSA does say that they put down, it says 10x of what TXTM is worth. So you have to go to the actual chart to factor in exactly what that means. So when that was said was, like I said, March. So given the circumstances, it was trading at 0.0014. 1.4 potentially, or 1.5 if you want to call it that. So if that was true, that they put in at least 10x worth what they were worth, then arguably we should be at roughly about 1 cent. So the fact that we are currently trading at 0.0063 would represent roughly about a 35% discount, again factoring in all other conditions. And now moving on to SNDL Inc. So as far as market cap, 536 million, and going back to here, immediately you can tell that they have a pretty substantial discount, because that alone is their long-term debt. Then over and above that, there's cash equivalents and short-term investments, 497 million. So just over about 1 billion as far as a market cap based on their balance sheet alone. So that's something you really need to factor in, and that would basically equate themselves to having a 55%, if not more, of a discount. So as far as an overall discount that is being placed on the market, then SNDL Inc. definitely does get that. So let me know your thoughts on that in the comments below. And now I want to talk on some attributes that I really do value about both. So when it comes to SNDL Inc., I really, like I've already mentioned, I like their attributes of outside sources of revenue. I personally, even myself, don't like a stock to have all their eggs in one basket. So that's something I really do value about SNDL Inc., how they have the Alcanna and Sunstream attributes. So that's something I really do like about SNDL. And when it comes to ProText, there's a lot of different things about ProText that you can definitely fall in love with. One of which is the community. And obviously they're building a very strong community. And like I said, based on this, even if some small percentage of this is very accurate, then you know what? There is a huge amount of upside that is going to be coming for ProText. So that's something I really do value. I also like their transparency. Sundial, unfortunately, is really bad for PR and has always been like that for the longest time. Whereas with ProText, they are currently actually getting a website as well. Unfortunately, it's going to be coming the next couple of days. But when it comes to an actual website, I know it seems very small and minuscule by saying that, but for an actual OTC stock to have a website, that's actually a pretty big deal. In addition to that, RSA is very, very active on Twitter. So the transparency level is not even a comparison. So I think this is where OTC stock wise and even just general stock wise, I think the advantageous one to get in is a little bit more ProText. So let me know your thoughts on all of this in the comments below. I know there's going to be a lot of people that do disagree with a lot of different things I say, whether it be the overall health, because that under the health attribute could be a lot of a wider range of things, many of which that I probably did omit and didn't really talk about, because there is a lot of other things I didn't really necessarily mention that is in favor of both stocks. But I think I just gave you a good summary of things that investors really do care about and are basically the priority that for them to kind of watch for. Let me know your thoughts on all of this in the comments below. If you haven't already, hit that thumbs up and subscribe. I greatly appreciate that. And also let me know in the comments below if you own either of these stocks and what you own and what you find advantageous about either ProText or possibly Sundial or SNDL Inc. Let me know your thoughts. If you haven't already, like I said, hit that thumbs up. And don't forget to pop over to my other channel, so Trending OTC Stocks, where I cover basically any OTC stocks that is being recommended. Or so make sure you go over there, subscribe, and in the comments if you do like over-the-counter stocks, and let me know one that you want me to cover, and I'll definitely do that. But with all that, I appreciate you guys watching, and let's all make a lot of money on whatever floats your boat out there.